Hey guys, Mr. Sonnenberg here. Today we're going to be talking about dangerous dosages. So this is for Science 9 students studying environmental chemistry. It's topic 4 in your textbook for study reference. And the specific outcome that is going to correspond with this information, or what I want you to know through this screencast, is that you can understand and are able to interpret information on how living things are affected both locally and globally by chemicals released here or in other parts of the world. So I want you to think with that statement in mind as we go through the screencast. I want you to see if you can understand or answer that based on a few bits of the information that you find here. So first thing we need to talk about is, what is the word toxic? What does it mean? So what is toxic? So a toxin is created when chemicals that can do harm to living organisms, they remain in the environment. So an example of this is going to be DDT. We discussed DDT earlier as a persistent pesticide, and it's a form of an insecticide that was used to control malaria initially, and take down the mosquito population, but it actually harmed a lot of organisms, and it stayed in the environment for a long period of time, so it had some very toxic effects. The second thing we have to talk about is toxicity, and that's basically the ability for a chemical to cause harm or to an organism. So that's going to be the level. So we're going to see varying levels of toxicity. So if it's more toxic, we're going to see greater effects that harm the organism. If it's less toxic, obviously less toxic effects. But there are two types of toxicity. There's acute toxicity and chronic toxicity. So first we'll discuss acute toxicity. So this is going to occur when serious symptoms occur after exposure to toxic substance. So these are things that are going to happen immediately, or not necessarily immediately, but in short term. So they say that these things can happen anywhere from the time of the exposure to approximately 14 days in. And you can find these serious symptoms and effects, and they can potentially cause death. So these acute means it's going to happen quickly, it's going to be aggressive, and it's going to affect you, and it's going to be the more dangerous, not more dangerous, sorry, but it's just going to affect you immediately. You're going to know acute toxicity right away. Whereas on chronic toxicity, if we discuss that, it's going to occur based on numerous exposures to that particular toxin. So it's just going to accumulate in your body. Okay, so things like this would be lead poisoning, right? Exposure to lead, or several exposures to lead over time. It's going to build up in your blood, and you're going to get this blood poisoning that occurs, or maybe even exposure to asbestos and such. Okay, so acute happens quickly. You see the symptoms right away, anywhere from the initial time that you're exposed to it to around approximately 14 days. You're going to see some serious symptoms within that. Whereas chronic, you're not going to notice the symptoms, but you're going to have constant exposure or several exposures over possibly years, and then you're going to actually see that it's going to accumulate, and then you're going to see the effects later on. Things like smoking as well, right? Smoking can cause those toxic effects, but chronic toxicity, that's smoking. So within, there's different types of toxins, and one is these heavy metals, these heavy metal toxins. And so heavy metal toxins, they're agents that have a density of 5 grams per centimeter cubed or more. Not so that was more information purpose. It's not that important for you to know what they're measured in, but the metals are naturally occurring, but we also process them in a wide variety of products. So they can be toxic to a wide range of organisms based on what variety or what type of metal it is. So there's a lot of monitoring that is going on a regular basis of these heavy metal toxins. They can enter the water supply in two ways. So they can be leached into the groundwater, like these heavy metals can. In those two ways is, one, we're going to see improper solid waste disposal. So litter, things such as that, or if we don't dispose of these wastes in the correct manner, we can see some problems. The second thing that's going to occur is also acid rain, and acid rain, which we know is caused by emissions and the combination of water vapor, is actually going to fall in the form of acid precipitation. So this is actually acid rain can also cause these heavy metals to leach into the groundwater system. But these heavy metals, so examples of heavy metals, if you're curious what they are, if we take a look here, heavy metals can be things like mercury, copper, lead, zinc, nickel. Okay, all these things are heavy metals, and I've just shown a couple right here. If you're curious, some toxic metals and metals of interest, but these heavy metals can be especially toxic to children, and they can cause things like abnormal development, brain damage, or even death in children, so they can be quite dangerous. But anyways, guys, that's dangerous dosages. Talking about the main thing I want you to take is I want you to know the difference between a toxin, toxic, and I want you to know the difference between and be able to compare and contrast, or at least contrast acute and chronic toxicity. Okay, hopefully this has helped, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, bye.